Hey everyone, and welcome to the Park Loopy podcast. And it is our Christmas special, Christmas Day special this year. We've decided to put this out on Christmas Day, so if you're having your turkey or you're having some sprouts or whatever you do on Christmas Day. I'm talking about Christmas Day like I'm a robot, like whatever you do on Christmas Day. Because I do normal human things on Christmas Day anyway, but thank you for joining us on the Theme Park Loopy podcast, or if it's Boxing Day or whenever, then that's fine too. But if you're listening on Christmas Day, then particularly well done for listening to the Theme Park Loopy podcast on Christmas Day. So we're joined by Dan and we're joined by Sam. We've got Dan wearing a Santa hat. Is it a jingly Santa hat or just a normal Santa hat, Dan?
It's a non-jingly Santa hat, unfortunately. It's the first thing I could find when Sam reminded me that it was the very, very Christmassy version of the podcast. Frankly, we're lucky that I could find anything. So consider yourself lucky.
Yeah, and the good thing is we're not actually recording this in like September or something, like other podcasts. It is actually nearly Christmas.
Almost, we're live on Christmas Day. Absolutely live. We've taken, time out of our Christmas Day to present this podcast to our lovely viewers because we love them so much.
Yeah, I'm currently boiling some sprouts at the moment. I keep going on about sprouts. I do like sprouts though. But I tell you what, don't just boil sprouts. Put them in a pan, fry them, bit of butter, bit of bacon or something. Fry them up, then give them a little bit of a crush. Don't mash them, and then you've got yourself like a kind of bacony sprout crush. That's what I'd recommend. So if you haven't made your sprouts yet, then that's what I recommend doing. So there you go.
Just stick them in the microwave with the turkey.
Don't put anything in the microwave. I don't even have a microwave, so I can't put anything in there. Sam, you look like a big reindeer. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And yeah, I am a bit of a reindeer. Actually, I've got my lovely antlers on. I've got these red, beautiful antlers that are towering over the top of my head. And it doesn't really feel like Christmas here where I am. I'm obviously out in the Middle East, and it's just very, very warm. Oh, my antlers are falling down. Very, very warm all the time out here. So, but lovely to see you both. And I must say, I never knew the two of you were such great chefs. We've got Jamie Oliver and Gordon Ramsay here. One saying microwave sprouts, the other one saying fry sprouts. For me, my favorite thing to have on Christmas is a roasted parsnip.
Oh, I don't know about the parsnip. Do you have a bit of honey with the parsnips?
Honey glazed parsnips. Absolutely. That's what's got to be. No question about it. Just now, my recipe for this isn't the microwave or the oven. It would be the air fryer. Yeah. So get your parsnips out, chop them into whatever length floats your boat, and then drizzle some honey on top of that. A little bit of chili if you're hot and spicy, and then smack it in the air fryer. 15 minutes. Job's a good one.
That's good. Oh, air frying, yeah. That's all the rage in it these days.
In Japan, they have their traditional KFC, and I'm a massive fan of this plan. Why cook when you can just go to your local fast food joint, get a KFC and be done with it? Easy peasy.
But the other thing is, I have heard though that KFC on Christmas Day is super gross though in Japan because they make so much of it that it's all really sweaty and it's not like, super crispy or anything. It's just super gross, apparently. According to Chris Broad in Japan, he says it's super gross, apparently. So who am I to argue?
Well, I think that's your skewed Western perspective.
I never even knew they had KFC in Japan on Christmas Day, so that's new to me. I agree with you, Dan. I think that's what takes the hassle out of everything, doesn't it? Just pop on down to the Colonel and get yourself a bucket.
Yeah, apparently it was like a marketing campaign that got out of control, and now they end up on like waiting lists to get their Christmas Day KFC. It's really weird.
Yeah, you have to order it like weeks in advance or something. So if you want your KFC on Christmas Day, you've got to get your orders in. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd fancy it, to be honest. It's not my number one thing I'd want to have on Christmas Day, I don't think. But yeah. Right, so Christmas dinner starters, prawn cocktail, yes or no?
No. I'm not a massive fan of prawn. Unless you're talking about crisps. I love crisps.
Right, so you'll eat prawn flavoured crisp, but you won't have a prawn cocktail, the best starter of all at Christmas time.
Exactly
Right,
that, yeah.
I'm with Dan on this one. Prawn cocktail has no place on my Christmas Day table. Out of all the starters you could have mentioned in the world, prawn cocktail is possibly the most grotesque, saucy. It's just grim. Who would want that?
So are you having like a liver pate or something like that? Maybe a bit of toast or a bit of crouton or whatever, a bit of crostini, something with a bit of liver
I can
pate.
safely, I can safely say I'm not coming to your house at Christmas Day. That's for sure.
What?
Prawn cocktails, microwaved sprouts, and,
I'm not having
no,
microwave sprouts.
well, even still, I'm sorry, but so far, your recipes, I wouldn't be buying your recipe ebook. No, but
It's a shame because that was our side hustle this year, was festive menu ebook.
Yeah.
Still going on.
Theme Park Loopy in the kitchen at Christmas. That's the catchy title that it was going to have. But
Theme
yeah,
Park Loopy recipes, some really good highs, but mostly lows.
yeah. One very steep high, and then a bit of a drop, and then it just kind of peters out from there, really. But yeah, we are going to talk about theme park stuff at some point, but we're just going to randomly talk about Christmas stuff because it is Christmas Day, and if you're listening on Christmas Day, again, thank you very much. I quite enjoy being part of someone's Christmas Day if they're having like a bit of a turkey at the moment and listening to us talking rubbish. But turkey, that's a bit of a controversial one. Would you have, some people don't have turkey now, they'll have chicken or they'll have gammon. Personally, I like to have gammon and turkey because I like to kind of have a bit of both. Some people tell me that's too much meat, you can't double meat. But what's your opinion on that? Can you double meat, and if you double meat, what should it be?
I think King Henry had the right approach. Just keep layering your meats until you end up having a massive heart attack and dying. That's the best festive approach. I reckon you can get to 10 meats all wrapped up in a big roll. That'd be ideal.
Oh, this is that turducken. Do you know? I don't agree. If you're gonna have a bird, just have a bird. Don't put a bird in a bird around a bird. It doesn't need to happen. It's just totally pointless. So it's like turd. What is it? Turducken. So you have a turkey with a duck with a chicken. But the thing is, like, they're totally different types of meat because like turkey is a white meat and duck is more like a gamey red meat that should actually be pink. So it'd just be terrible. All of it's terrible. So I'm not going for that. I just want to have a turkey. I don't
I
want
really don't like the criticism you're leveling at my food choices tonight.
Are you
Ryan.
having a? Are
I'm
you having
feeling
a?
very singled out?
Are you having a turd? Are you not putting a turducken in your microwave? Are you? Is that what you're
Yeah,
doing?
that's what I do every year.
Well, I don't know. I think that sounds all right. You make a one big Yorkshire pudding in a sheet tray, smash it down, put all your meats and your microwave Brussels sprouts and your liver pate and what on your blooming prawn cocktail, roll it up into a big burrito. Bosh. There you go. You can even air fry it too for extra crispiness, like they don't have at the KFC in Japan.
Nobody wants a Christmas dinner burrito. That's crazy. Nobody wants that. No. Okay, so what I want to know next then is, are we doing Christmas pudding or not? Because some people don't like Christmas pudding. If it was any other time of the year and someone said, "Would you like a steamed pudding full of like raisins and whatever?" I'd be like, "No, I'll have a jam roly poly, please." But for some reason on Christmas Day, it seems more appealing. So what we're thinking, is it Christmas pudding or are we having a trifle, or could have a sherry trifle maybe instead.
See, I have a Yule log for me, right? So
Yule log.
a Yule log, yeah. I mean, ever since I don't know why it's called a Yule log. Actually, does anyone know the reason why it's called? If you do know, comment below.
Well, Yule is just in that just like a Christmas thing, and it is
Yule tidings.
I don't know. It's some sort of oldie worldy.
Well,
Christmas
I can say
thing.
that you'll be sorry that you didn't have a Yule log if you haven't had one on Christmas Day.
Isn't it just basically a fancy Swiss roll? Is it not just a Swiss roll
I
that's
mean,
been
it
covered
is.
in chocolate or something?
It is, but it's got, it's a Swiss roll with like hard chocolate, but then you can also put like quite a cute like scene on top of it using like sleds and little snowmen. And actually it tastes far better than a bit of a soggy, brandy filled Christmas pudding. But now, listen, my family is very traditional, so we always have a Christmas pudding. But because I just particularly can't, I'm like the one person in our huge family gatherings that we usually have at Christmas that cannot do Christmas pudding. So they'll put like a slither of Yule log, and I'll just have that with cream, and that's been great. But I can't sympathise with the Christmas pudding lovers out there.
See, I take the mick, but I have just realised that I have pre-ordered some sort of Colin the Caterpillar Yule log from Marks and Spencer's. So hopefully that'll be alright. I kind of don't like the idea of eating a caterpillar, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I've heard Colin is a fair caterpillar and a nice caterpillar to eat, so yeah.
Just go for the face. The face is the best bit. It's pure chocolate. So yeah, I think it's all about Christmas pudding. I don't care what anyone says. You gotta have Christmas pudding, don't you? Christmas Day. Anyone who doesn't is absurd.
Are we having that with custard or alternatively? It seems like you can't buy this normally, but like brandy like sauce kind of situation. Is that what you're having with it?
Yeah, either like a novelty like custard, because you can get quite a few around Christmas, can't you? Like nice brandy custard. Yeah, or like one of the variety flavored custards, or just like brandy sauce to me. It's all good.
I was going to say, do you have it with your brandy butter? Do you put your do you like churn up your brandy butter and smother that on? Because I know a lot of people do that.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I do nothing. I have food delivered to me because I can't cook. So I'll just take whatever I'm given, and that'll be nice, and I'll enjoy that.
That sounds good to me. You've just kind of reminded me with the novelty custard though. I don't know if this just happened at my school, but every now and then, and particularly around the Christmas period, they would have different flavoured custard. So occasionally they would have a chocolate custard or a strawberry custard, and very occasionally they'd have a mint custard, but that was an acquired delicacy, I would say. I was a big fan of the mint custard, but a lot of people didn't like it, so I ended up eating a lot of mint custard. Was that just something that happened at my school, or is this something that everyone else got to enjoy as well?
I think if you were like diabetic, they sometimes had like a different custard. Because I remember some of the teachers who were diabetic got like a novelty custard. I always wanted to try but couldn't because I wasn't diabetic. But I don't think we had like as a standard, like for kids, different flavored custards. That's crazy. That's some kind of luxury that I was never exposed to as a child.
Maybe this was a Bradford thing. Maybe I don't know. Although technically, you were in Bradford, but I guess in the posh bit. So
I was in Ilkley, which thinks it's Leeds, but it's not.
It's not Leeds. You can
we had
all you want.
Yeah, we had strawberry custard. I remember that very well. You'd have the chocolate dessert, and then you'd have your strawberry custard on top of that, and that always had this weird flavor and texture to it that you just kind of had to grow to love, because the skin was always on top, right? Like you get the big bowl of custard and it'd be shared, and the skin would always be, but it was good luck to get the skin. Like people would fight over who got the skin of the custard.
See, at my school, so we used to all sit at tables, and then the food would be like served to us. So they would kind of put it on the table, and we'd have like so there'd be like 6 of us at a table, and then they'd bring out like, I don't know, like a pie for 6 people, and then they'd bring out a pudding for 6 people, and then they'd bring like a little jug of custard. So basically everyone on the table had to kind of fight over this custard, although we had like, technically you're meant to have like what do you call it, like an elder or something who was meant to kind of give you the custard. And so one person at the table could get the skin of the custard, but I never did because I think the skin's gross, so that wasn't my cup of tea. So yeah, there you go. I don't know if I just went to a weird school.
Well, I'm still trying to get my head around it was luck to get the skin thing from Sam's school. That just That sounds completely mental.
Yeah, it
Imagine everyone
was.
pushing each other over to get the top layer of skin from the
Yeah.
custard.
Yeah, I remember. So the way it worked in our school is we had these long tables, and we would have a prefect or someone who was higher up in some regard, usually an elder student, and you would have, again, similar to you, Ryan, a kind of a mass portion which was designed for the whole table, and then whoever was the head of that day would like serve the table, and you pass down the plates along the sides of the table, and people would get so competitive about the skin to
Would
a
it be
point
like
where
Battle
they would.
Royale? That's what
Yeah.
I'm imagining now. Like the knives came out. Some people had like guns. It was crazy.
Yeah, people started using butter knives, and not in a good way. They would start charging them. Yeah, no, it was a whole thing. It was like he got the skin yesterday, so I should get it today. If you had custard 2 days in a row, it was a bit weird, frankly. But
I've never been. I don't see the point in the skin. I've never been a big fan of it. I just want to get into the custard. I don't want the weird skin on top. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So, and also for Christmas this year, I've bought like a lot of port. So I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I'm like, I want to keep buying port now. And also it's kind of worrying that while I don't really like to drink red wine, I apparently like to drink like fortified, really strong red wine, which is basically port. So I don't know, what do you guys think about port? Is that something that we should be doing? And is it, do we have it with a bit of cheese, or, do we just have a bit of a sip every now and then?
I'm a big port fan at Christmas. You got to get a bit of port, don't you? And obviously it's a terrible drink any time else other than Christmas. But at Christmas, it's like when you go to a festival and everyone drinks all the time, and it's perfectly acceptable at a festival to drink at like 8 a.m. because it's a festival. But obviously, in any other context, you'd be an alcoholic. It's a bit like that, but with port.
Yeah.
I can safely say I've never tried port personally.
Oh wow!
I don't know the flavour of it. What does it taste? You say it's fortified wines. What
it tastes of pure Christmas
wine.
Yeah, it's basically It's like a fortified wine, but it's a lot more fruity. And it depends. There's different types that you can get. So like, I like to get what's called an LBV, which is late bottle vintage, which means that basically it's a bit older than your standard stuff. But or you can get sometimes a special reserve, which tends to be like 10 years old or something. But it's not that expensive, and compared to red wine, actually, it's not too expensive, because like you can get a special reserve for like 50 quid or something. Or if you go in for the cheap stuff, you're getting like the Cockburns or whatever, then that's only like 25 quid. So you can get a bit of that instead.
But what you do is you go to Marks and Spencer's and get what they sell for like 12 quid, and then that'll do. Don't do what Ryan just said, because that's extremely expensive.
Well, I just bought 2 bottles. They were £23 each. I just bought, but they were ruby. They didn't have any LBV, so I got some LBV. You call yourself
a Yorkshireman? That is outrageous.
I actually went to my local wine shop actually to buy it as well.
So when you go shopping for port, I'm just trying to imagine, because you're using the lingo. So you're obviously a port. You're a port man. You're using the sort of the LBV terminology there. Took me a minute to catch on. I'm new. So please tell me, you go to this wine shop in the middle of Yorkshire, which I'm just immediately picturing being in the middle of a field with some sheep around it.
No,
and
you go up in a town. In a town.
You go, hey up, Chuck. All right. You got any LBV? And she looks at you and goes, "What on earth are you on about?" And you're like, "Yeah, LBV. The LBVs, the Vs. It's we're only talking the sort of the 3-year stuff. I'm not going down the mature MBV. That's different. No, that's different. I'm just talking about the LBV. Yeah, you got any of that in stock? The port. No, we haven't got that. But you can go to Tesco and buy that for 12 quid. Oh, cheers. Yeah, I'll go back there. No. So do they know when you use that terminology? Do they know? Oh yeah, LBV is actually on aisle 7. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, no. If you go to a proper wine shop, then they know what you're talking about. Although to be fair, I walked in and she said, she was like, "Oh, can I help you with all?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just eyeing up this port." And she said, "Oh, you probably know more about it than I do, so just see what you like." So I was like, "All right, thanks." So I just basically looked at, and then the one that I saw, this this LBV that I wanted to get, actually, they'd sold out. But so then she comes up to me and she goes, "Oh, the LBV, that was very popular." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's the one I wanted." And then we got into a conversation about ordering me, and I thought, I can't be bothered. I'm just gonna buy this. So I bought some Ruby port in the end, which is fine. It'll do the job. Also, interestingly though, I have a bottle of Yacht, which is Yorkshire port, because of the whole European thing. You can't actually call it port unless it comes from Porto, because that's where it's from. It's Portuguese, and it comes from Porto. So if you have some fortified wine made in Yorkshire, they can't call it port, so instead they call it Yacht. Although I kind of want to call it Yacht, because I think that's how you should say it. So we'll see how that pans out as well. But it's basically just fortified wine. So anywhere that sells fortified wine, it's just not port because it's not made in Portugal, basically. So there you go. Top fact of the day. Everyone knows about the port now. But you want to drink, you drink a little bit of it though. Don't drink too much. Don't have a whole big glass of it.
If I try port this festive season, I will send you a video, Ryan, and you can put it on the social pages of trying port for the first time. I really doubt that is going to happen, but if it does, I'll make sure that I try some LBV.
Someone will have some port. Make sure it's an LBV, and you want to check its viscosity. So just put a little bit in your glass, give it a little swirl. Make sure you're not seeing. What should happen is it should kind of rise up the glass, and then it should, as one, it should drop back down the glass.
Go to Marks and Spencer's and buy a mid-range, quite cheap port, and you're done. You're at the store. You can go home. You can do things. You watch the TV.
If you're listening to this, right, go back and just listen to that segment and watch that segment on the video section of this, because what was that word you just used, Ryan?
The viscosity.
The viscosity. My goodness. If you watch this back, please do watch it back on the YouTube channel and just look at Ryan's face as he says the viscosity. The cheekiness in your smile. And then you're going on and talking about how it should, I don't know, collide into one. I mean,
It should be a fruity bouquet. It should full of juiciness. It should be. If it's not full of juiciness, it's no good. That's what I would say.
There you go. You heard it here first. The more juice, the better.
Right. Okay. So before we talk about theme park stuff, I want to talk about Christmas films. I've been getting into watching terrible Christmas films, although some of them are not as terrible as others. So one to mention is Your Christmas or Mine 1 and 2, and also there's a very interesting film which is called something like I Hate Christmas Wedding or something, and it's got some weird stuff going on it. But basically just go on Amazon or Netflix or whatever and go down the list of Christmas films and you'll find some terrible films. Also, 5 out of 10 of the films involve some American woman coming to Scotland or something, inexplicably meeting someone who has an English accent though in Scotland. Apparently, according to these films, everyone in Scotland has English accents, and they just so happen to meet the prince of wherever. And also, weirdly, I don't know if this is a thing where you can't do a film about and claim that they're actually the royal family. So you can't say, I've met Prince Harry or Prince William. It's always I've met the Prince of Edobia or something. And it's that doesn't... What... But that's not how princes work. We don't have random principalities in Scotland. So I don't know what that's about. So... Anyway, so if you're thinking, what should I watch at Christmas? Just find any of these terrible films where an American woman comes to Scotland for some reason and just happens to meet the prince. The prince always pretends, obviously, not to be a prince, and then at the end they have this big showdown that's like, but if you didn't know I was a prince, then you wouldn't have loved me. And then the American's like, but you lied to me. You lied to me. But if you thought I was a prince, then you wouldn't love me. And then she goes, oh, okay then, that's fine. And then that's how it ends. It's like, Christmas, everybody has Christmas. And it's like, it just ends in a Christmas dance party or something. So anyway, so that's all Christmas films that are on Amazon. What do you think about that?
What? What's just happened?
I'm thinking, really, Netflix and Amazon, if you're listening, get Ryan in as a writer, because he has just hit the money there. No, I've
never seen a Christmas film with this plot in my entire life.
Oh, there is a lot. There is a lot.
I don't know. Yeah. What are they called? What film are we talking about here?
Oh, there's so many. A Christmas at the Castle, A Christmas at the Castle 2.
A Royal Christmas, a Prince Christmas.
Royal Christmas.
Like, just literally put a Christmas and some sort of royal, a prince at Christmas. Like they're all the same.
Christmas, 3 out of 5 stars on IMDb.
There you go. And I didn't even know that was a real film. I just made the title up.
I've got to say, I love a cheesy Christmas film, and I find real comfort in the fact that it's very much a genre trope of festive films, right? Is that you know exactly where it's going to move and go. And I find that quite relaxing. And I am an absolute sucker to a Hallmark Christmas movie where it's like, you know, big city girl goes back to her hometown for the family Christmas, and she meets the main man who runs an orchid farm. An orchard, an apple orchard. You know what I mean? He's brewing his own festive cider. Turns out to be her high school crush that they haven't seen. I think she decides, I'm going to ditch my job as a lawyer in the big city, and I'm going to stay here and help run your cider farm. And together, they'll make sweet, happy memories. I really, really enjoy that. And I watched one recently that I thought was outstanding. It's called Single All the Way. And this is actually, it was quite remarkable. It was quite remarkable because it was one of the first Netflix, like, fully produced Christmas films that featured a gay cast, right, which I loved as a gay man. And on top of that, they had a wonderful, wonderful cast that is recognizable, but it even had Jennifer Coolidge in it. And I love her so much. And she was just everything you want it to be. So if you haven't seen Single All the Way, it is a cheesy gay Christmas romance movie, and it is so funny and hilarious, and just it goes everywhere you expect it to go. And just watching it purely for Jennifer Coolidge being none other than Jennifer Coolidge is hilarious. And they have the weirdest cameos. Like at the end, they've got the wedding singer from The Hangover, if you remember him. He comes in and is like the wedding. He's like the Christmas pub singer at the end. You know, all these strange cameos from random bits and films in the past. So I 100% recommend it. Single All the Way. It is cheesy and it is wonderful. Watch it.
Yeah, all the other thing that happens is like maybe a man or a woman comes in from the big city. They work for, I don't know, like corporate lemonade. They work for the world's biggest lemonade company, and they need to go to back to their hometown where there's only the one lemonade shop that's still sticking it to the man. And so they go, I'm going to shut down this lemonade place. Then they get to know the lemonade man. He goes, do you know what? It's not all about big lemonade. It's not all about making money. You could work in this little village, like selling. And by the way, I give all my lemonade away to like orphans and things. You don't give your lemonade away to orphans and things, you know? And then they're like, oh, maybe I've got lemonade all wrong. I've been thinking about money when I could be giving lemonade away to orphans. I don't know how you're actually making any money and how you inexplicably have this shop on a high street, even though you give all your products away to everyone. And then at the end, it's like, and then they're like, but oh well, you can. Okay, fine. I'll let you shut me down, but just let me do this one last big lemonade show that we're going to do on Christmas Eve, where I give the lemonade away to the orphans. Otherwise, the orphans are not going to get the lemonade. Okay, we'll wait till then. And then in between, we get the whole, oh, I think I love you, and all this. Oh, maybe I love you, but maybe I don't love you. Oh no, I actually hate you, but no, I do love you. And then at the end, they all kiss on Christmas Eve, and she goes, oh, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to give up my job in Big Lemonade, and now I'm going to come and work in your shop. And then we get this whole thing at the end where they're all just like going, I love lemonade, lemonade, yeah, yeah, yeah. Now we've got kids and stuff, and that's basically every film. So there you go. So
Well,
if you want to hire me to write a Christmas film, I don't know, Lemonade at Christmas,
if you
Christmas
want like a
lemons.
mediocre Christmas film that's really generic that Ryan will love, then employ Ryan.
That's
Just
it.
There you go.
from my side, just don't actually forget that there are good Christmas films like It's a Wonderful Life, because some of these films are amazing, and you only watch them this one time of year. I've also been recommended to watch The Holdovers, which I've not seen, but apparently people are raving about it. It's set at Christmas. I think it's like a dark comedy or something. So that's on my Christmas list to watch this year as well. So yeah, actually do watch good Christmas films and not just the rubbish that Ryan's recommending.
I did just finish, actually, and I will recommend this. We should be commissioned by Netflix at this point, but I did just finish Black Dove or Black Doves, which is really, really good. So it's a like a crime thriller noir, but it's all set at Christmas, so it's like Christmassy noir, and it's got Keira Knightley in it, which is fantastic. She's amazing anyway, but it was kind of like I haven't seen her in anything in such a long time, so it was amazing to see her back on the
she hasn't
screen.
done a lot recently, has she? Keira Knightley.
No, but this was really good, really action packed, very like gangsters, guns, Tommy guns in violin cases, that kind of thing. But all set at Christmas, in the middle of London.
Nice. Sorry, I was just going to say Miracle on 34th Street as well. Good film.
That's it. Yeah.
I do enjoy a Christmas noir. That's the best time to have a noir. Right. Well, let's try and talk about some theme park stuff. We've got about 30 minutes left. So, a couple of things I want to talk about. Ripsaw's back. Why is Ripsaw back at Alton Towers? What's that all about? And they've closed the Blade now, inexplicably. So Alton Towers have decided to bring back, well, not bring back, but basically they've Ripsaw, the ride type that it was, is they've basically bought a new version of that. They've got rid of the Blade, and also the Alton Towers dungeons have been confirmed to have been closed. And also I think there's another ride that has closed as well, forgotten the name. Some sort of family twirling ride.
Fabulous Fandango, I believe was the name.
Right, yeah. So effectively they've closed 3 rides and then they're opening Ripsaw. So what do we think about that? Is that a good thing, or are they going backwards, do we think?
I don't really understand. Why would they remove the rides and then rebuy the rides? Surely that's a lot more expensive than just maintaining the ride. I don't really understand the logic here, unless they thought, oh, we're going to move off in a different direction because, the kind of ride mechanic only appeals to a small audience, and maybe they could use a space better. And then they thought, actually, no, we can't really use a space better. Let's just buy the same ride again. Like, I can't really get my head around the logic. So
the ride type that is it puts a lot of stress on the mechanisms, and also Huss. I don't know if Huss has built this new one or not. I'm not actually sure, but it gets to a point where you can't really get the parts anymore because of the model that was built. Things have changed, like safety things have changed, and it gets to a point where you're having to kind of cannibalize old versions of it, and you get to a point where there's no parts left anywhere. So either you're left with trying to maintain something that you probably can't, and you probably can't get signed off for safety because it's not modern enough. So, but at the same time, it was pretty popular. It used to eat the crowds. They've only got so much space, like it kind of fit perfectly with the space that they had there. And so I guess they thought, well, let's go with this again.
But why
yeah.
wait? Why remove it and then wait like a full season? Has it been one season or two
Oh no,
seasons?
it's
And
been closed a long time. It's
I can't
been
I can't remember how long it's been.
I think it's been, I don't know. What, Sam, has it been closed about 5 years now? Something like that?
Yeah, I was actually,
No
I don't
way.
know the exact, but I want to say it's almost close to 10 years now, isn't it?
No, it can't be 10 years.
I feel like it was
Am I just
closed.
really old? I'm really old.
It could be. It's a long time ago. We might all be wrong, but yeah, it's not. It hasn't just closed like last year, has it? It's closed quite enough time ago for it not to really be a replacement, because
So
obviously it's not come straight in, has it?
if it was a purposeful thing, oh, it's just a maintenance issue, we can't get the parts anymore, they wouldn't have left such a massive gap, would they? It's obvious that they've tried to have a rethink, removed it, and then come to the realization this is the only thing they can do with the space and rebought one. But like I can't imagine any other kind of logic would have led to this happening in the way it has done.
Look, my theory on this is that I think Merlin are in a spot of bother, to put it lightly. What I mean by that is I think they've obviously made the hard decision to get rid of the rides, the capacity eating rides. Now, Fabulous Fandango was on a lease anyway, so it was up for the lease, right? So that's fair enough. There would be moving the dungeons, I'm guessing, because they're going to use that space for something else, which I can understand because it was an upcharge ticket attraction, as we all know. It probably didn't get a lot of crowds in. Certainly when I was there wasn't that many crowds. Whenever I went around it, I only went around it 2 or 3 times in its opening life, in its operating life. And with the whole top spin and then being replaced, I think you're exactly right there, Dan, with your prediction. I think they probably tried to do other things with the space and then thought, actually, a Huss top spin does fit. With Blade being removed, I can understand why they held off, but I don't understand. And actually, I'm actually going to throw a shout out here to Sean Sandbrick, who actually mentioned this on his YouTube account. So, and I think it's a good valid point, to be fair, is that, you know, usually with Huss or with these flat rides, they do these multi-ride deals, right? Both the Blade and the top spin were both Huss attractions. So why did they not, if they knew they were going to take out Blade and they knew they were going to replace with this Huss top spin, with this inverted Huss top spin, then why not do a multi-ride deal? And, you know, they don't take that long to install. I mean, the installation for the top spin took about, well, a week really to get it fully structured. I know that it's needs to be tested and everything, all of that jazz, but in terms of it being actually physically built, it only took a week to move from the car park to being actually physically built. So it doesn't take long to install. So why didn't they then immediately, if they knew Blade was going away, replace it with another one? Because Huss also builds pirate ships, right? Because again, it's all about capacity. But now we're in a really difficult situation where we're losing capacity from the park. Yes, we've got a nice top spin, which will eat some of the crowds, but still we're losing ride offerings. They really need to work, in my opinion, Alton Towers do, on their ride operation and ride offering, because this year was an absolute, well, it was rubbish, to put it lightly, with the ride availability. And there were so many complaints happening because people were going for full days and were either getting comped their day back because ride availability was rubbish, or, you know, even worse, if they weren't comped, they had to deal with these long periods of downtime. So yeah, I think there's all these strange decisions being made in Merlin recently. The CEO stepped down. There has been international parks and attractions that have closed. We're seeing all sorts of other things which we'll touch on later in the podcast, but it just seems strange that there were all these weird decisions, rumors. Again, these are just rumors, but rumors that a lot of the funding has been moved from the north down to the south, with a lot of focus of capex being spent on Chessington and Thorpe Park. Arguably, that could be because they're expecting Universal to come in, and that's apparently what's happening, and they're moving their money that way. But also with the North Studio being shut down as well. I don't know if we even touched on that on the podcast, but they shut MMM's North Studio right before Christmas. So we're talking, 30, 40 people are going to be losing their jobs, being made redundant just before Christmas. I mean, that is a horrendous decision. So,
the Merlin Magic Makers, I think, is it
yes, yeah, Merlin Magic Making. Their North Studio, which was based in Alton Towers, was suddenly announced that it was going to be shut. And so all of those people that were working on that separate team were going to lose their jobs, which it must have a deeper business.
Which is kind of crazy when you consider the kind of acclaim that they've been given for Nemesis coming back, and presumably a lot of the work will have been done in-house at Alton Towers. So for that to have happened, I mean, hopefully the jobs are being relocated. I don't know if everyone's been made redundant or they're being moved. I don't know. But one thing you did touch on about the money going down south. So Project Horizon, that was meant to be an indoor multi-dimensional coaster coming to Alton Towers. I don't know how far they actually got in terms of the ride building. I think they'd already made a little bit of progress, at least in terms of the location. But it looks like Chessington are now getting a multi-dimensional coaster, and that's going to be Minecraft themed. I presume this is probably the multi-dimensional coaster that was going to come to Alton Towers, or the deal. I don't know if they actually bought the actual model or they just agreed to buy a multi-dimensional coaster. But do we think that is actually basically Project Horizon that's been now basically sent to Chessington and given a Minecraft wraparound, or do we think it's something else?
I think it could very well be, and I think to sort of broaden the discussion a little bit, there's a lot of talk right now. I think Merlin are the world's number 3 theme park operator, and the rumor is that very shortly they'll be number 4, as they're booted out of that spot with Universal. So I think they're probably taking it quite personally. I would imagine competing directly with Universal and seeing them as the direct competition, the direct threat, would probably be what their management team sort of is considering at this point in time. So I would imagine they're simply moving the ride to compete with the new Universal UK park, which is a shame, really, because I think that would have been. I think that's a mistake in the broader picture.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I can't. None of us can officially say whether it definitely was Project Horizon or not. It does definitely look to be very, very similar to what Project Horizon was going to be, but the Minecraft decision was strange to me because, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like IP is good when it has strong placement in an overall park perspective. What I mean by that is, like, if it fits in well with the park. And I worry for Chessington. I love Chessington. Chessington is my absolute favorite Merlin park. It always will be. I hold it extremely dear to my heart. Okay. What I find strange about this decision, I'm sure it makes sense in the broader picture, and this is us just coming into it from a fan and speculative perspective. But I worry because Chessington, before the IPs came in, was very simple. It had different areas which were based off different lands and places you could visit in the UK and visit around the world, and effectively go on a world of different adventures in the UK, right? That's the basis of the park. Yeah? You get to travel around different lands that represent different parts of the world, making your day a world of adventures, right? But now what we've got is these strange IPs that don't really fit. So we've got, I totally understand the author, Julia Anderson. Is it Julia Anderson? Julia will the author of The Gruffalo and Room on the Broom. That makes sense, right? That's a kid's English storybook. It fits in both of those areas very well and is quite on brand for Chessington. I think that was fantastic. Great move. What I'm confused about then is that we've got then Jumanji, which is I understand, still kind of based on a kind of jungle world, animal-based world, but it's a movie IP that is already now like 3 years old, which feels strange to me. And then we're going to now have Minecraft, which is completely. I understand again the purpose of the game is to build worlds, but again, it's completely removed from anything else that's happening in the park. So my worry for Chessington is that it's going to become this smorgasbord of randomly chucked IPs that don't really fit in the overall compass of the park, in my personal opinion. That's what I worry about. So I'm scared from a guest point of view, because I feel like it doesn't really make sense, and it makes the park become a bit disjointed and doesn't have a sense of unity within it.
It's worth noting that the Minecraft film, comes out in March, April next year. So they're probably hoping to capitalize off some of the momentum from that. But yeah,
as long as it's successful. I mean, the Lego films have kind of bombed recently, aren't they? So not
the first one did well. I think the second one wasn't a great hit.
No. Okay, so some other ride news. Blackpool Pleasure Beach. It was rumoured, or strongly rumoured, with evidence that Blackpool Pleasure Beach had in fact purchased a gyro swing. However, to the surprise of everyone, they were refurbishing Ice Blast. There was a bit of concern they were going to take down Ice Blast because, I mean, it's been on its last legs for almost 10 years now. Everyone's been talking about Ice Blast, and now it's not quite what it used to be, because these rides are very reliant on building high pressure and these kind of parts. They don't last forever. However, it has been announced that in fact Ice Blast is getting a retheme and will be relaunched as Launchpad, being given a space theme. Now, they're saying it's going to have a new launch mechanics that are going to be installed, which will give it a lot more punch. So I'm really excited about that, because I think it's a really good ride. It's a really popular one at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. The only thing I kind of worry about slightly is it's a very vivid theme, is space, and it's literally right next to Valhalla. So how do we merge those two things together is a bit of a tricky one. However, I think it's a really positive thing. It's almost like an icon of the park to see Ice Blast testing in the morning, and you hear that piston, when it goes up in the air. That's like, things are warming up in the park, and you kind of get that sense of excitement, especially that, and alongside the kind of clickety clack of the big one monorail. It's not a monorail. I love the big one, but people call it that. But they're crazy. So it's part of the park. So I think it's a really positive move. What do you think think about Launchpad?
I was just going to say, what with the mixed Viking space theming, that's essentially what Marvel did with their Thor, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, do you know it'd almost be perfect, wouldn't it, for it to be a Thor, or maybe like a Thor Love and Thunder type area potentially. that could work.
Exactly. I think that would probably be something that Disney wouldn't be very happy about, though.
Yeah, I think it's just a great move for Blackpool, to be honest. I'm so pleased they didn't tear down Ice Blast. I think any kind of shot tower is awesome and is always very popular. And I think to simply upgrade it, put in those new pressure pumps or pistons, and have it back to its former glory is just doing a bit of fan service, I think, which is wonderful. I actually haven't really heard, certainly in the ends of the community that I'm in, I've not heard any kind of negative talk about this move. And I think it's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Upgrade what you've got. Make it good. Make the fans happy. Bring back a classic. And get us up that shot tower as fast as possible.
Yeah. Escape from Valhalla up the shot tower. I still think the gyro swing is going to happen, in my opinion. There's been a lot of markers seen around the old kind of Bolodrome area in front of River Caves. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen for next year, but I'd be surprised if that wasn't on the books as well. So Things are looking interesting there. Now, the other thing for 2025 is, and the big news potentially in 2025 is, are we going to finally get an announcement of Universal UK? Now, Sam, do you have some opinions on this one?
I do. I do. Well, I've been following this project for forever, as many of us have, right? Almost daily, I check out updates. And there was one just before the weekend, I believe, that was saying that it was from the main kind of chair of Bedford. And he was saying that he's still working on the project and things are looking really good, essentially, in a nutshell, and that he hopes to share good news within the start of the new year, like when the new year arrives. So I think what he was hinting at potentially was that we could be getting news very early on in the new year. Now, there's been a bit of speculation. People are saying that they will not mention anything until the opening of Epic Universe, which makes sense, right? Why they want to have all the fanfare about Epic Universe, then they can announce on the UK project and start working on that. However, in terms of a confirmation, just a yes is going ahead, I think we could see that in January or February, probably even January, maybe. I don't think we'll see it this side of Christmas, and certainly, well, we'll know by the time this is out because we're live. But I don't really think we'll find out until the new year, maybe January, maybe February. And I think we'll get the confirmation. And then again, it will be a period of silence until Epic Universe is all done and dusted. And maybe we'll get some further updates towards the like Q4 of next year. So in the autumn time, in the fall of next year. But hopefully an announcement looks running good for January, February.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that everything's looking positive. I don't think I've seen one negative so far about Universal UK. Everything seems to line up. I guess the only things that could be against it is maybe like world economic factors potentially that's out of our control. But I think other than that, I think everything's looking pretty positive as far as Universal UK is concerned. The other thing we wanted to mention was that Sam, you told us that Fort Park is getting a new stage. So what's that all about?
Absolutely. So the new update from Thorpe Park for 2025 is that the beach area, Amity Beach, is obviously getting demolished. I hate that word because it makes it feel like we're losing something. But the land itself is being turned into like a permanent festival stage entertainment area, which I think is an absolutely fantastic move from Thorpe because they have so many great seasonal events, right? We've seen their Oktoberfest, their Mardi Gras, and their Fright Nights this year, which have been smash hits. And they've been knocking it out of the park with these events. And every single event has had really high quality dance entertainment and like bands and things like that. So I think this is a great move for Thorpe just to have a permanent place where they can have a stage where they can have for their seasonal events huge dance shows and live bands. And even that begs the question of further entertainment like live music in their everyday year-round offering in terms of on an average day when it's not an event. So it's a great move from Thorpe. I think it's awesome. It's a great use of the space. There was a rumor floating around in the abyss somewhere, that is the theme park enthusiast UK community, that there was going to be some sort of coaster on that land. I don't know that that's going to happen now. I think it's a great move that they've got a fantastic stage on there, and it's just going to enliven up the entertainment. I will always support theme park and live entertainment, live immersive entertainment as well, because that's the world that I sit in. So I think it's wonderful that Thorpe have done this and made this commitment to entertainment in their year-round calendar. Great move from Thorpe.
Yeah, and if you think about its location being, so close to central London, and it can do something that Alton Towers can't do. What Alton Towers can't do is have like late night, shows, late night, dance festivals. That's something that Fort Park can do. I don't know if they have any issues with noise, but they're quite far away from housing, really, because it is literally like on islands, like little islands. So it is something they can lean into. Now, did I dream this? But have I seen some plans around Fort Park having a new hotel? I might have dreamt that, but I think there was some talk about Fort Park also having a new hotel, which looked more like a kind of permanent hotel rather than the shipping containers.
Yes, so I've also heard this rumor as well, and I'm sure I've seen plans for that somewhere floating around as well. That there was, I mean, I feel like before Thorpe Shark Hotel, there were the original plan was to have a permanent hotel, but then I also saw resurfaced plans of a new property that would kind of hug the lake. So it was like a lakeside hotel. Um, that's all I know about that. I don't know any more than that. I think it'd be a great idea, because I'm not sure how. I've not stayed in the Thorpe Shark hotels. I remember when Charlie stayed at them. He said that the Thorpe Shark Hotel was pretty basic, and I think if they were to move into a permanent hotel, that would actually attract a bigger market, because at the moment, I believe, in my opinion, the Thorpe Shark Hotel kind of shipping containers only really is suited and geared towards teenagers and people in their kind of mid-20s, in terms of if you wanted to attract sort of a more older crowd, or a mid-range crowd. I think they will choose comfort, and I think perhaps comfort is spared in terms of the tightness of the shipping containers. So I think it would be a good move if Thorpe did that. I know it's not an exciting new ride or coaster, or but they've just opened Hyperia, so we can't really complain, can we? So I think it would be a great move, and good for long-term kind of visitor numbers and investment if they did something like that. Also, if you do consider the likelihood of Universal Studios opening up, then the more hotels that are going to be more towards Merlin parks, where people can focus on a Merlin park as opposed to also then maybe doing a day trip to Universal, will take some of that competition potentially away. Who knows? So if they're going to offer competitive rates in comparison to what the 500-room hotel would be at Universal, who knows?
Definitely. Okay, so the penultimate thing to talk about is both me. Well, Dan is definitely going to Florida because he's definitely booked it now. I'm 99% going to Florida. I haven't quite booked it yet. But Dan, tell us all about it. What have you booked? Where is it? What are you doing?
So I've basically booked nothing, but my wife has booked a lot. So we've just booked our flights as of yesterday. The woman who we were talking to at Virgin Atlantic was very impressed by our massively proactive efforts to book the flights for next October. But yeah, we're going at the end of October up to the 9th of November. So there's a few things going on there. Obviously, we're going to see the transition from Halloween over to Christmas as we usually do, which I reckon is a really good time to go out there and see the parks because you get the best of both worlds. Basically, as soon as Halloween ends, they start like changing everything over to the Christmassy decorations, Christmassy food. So it's a good time to be in the park. Quite exciting. And also you get the food festival at Epcot as well, the International Food Festival, which is amazing. So it's good for that as well. And also the crowd levels aren't too bad. So obviously it kicks off a little bit more as you enter the proper Christmas period later on in the year. The only problem with this time of the year is that occasionally there's some weather in Florida. It can be a bit windy occasionally. But as long as you miss those periods, it's usually quite calm and not too bad. Still quite sunny, still quite humid, but not too humid that it's a proper problem, as it can be sort of peak summer. So we're going to Port Orleans Riverside this time, which is the first time we'll have been there. We've been to the Coronado a few times, which is really good, but it's just not the best for kids. Basically, you end up at the back of the park unless you spend a lot of money on accommodation. At the back of the resort, and there's a lot of walking, and there's quite a lot of like guests in there that are there for business conferences, which can sort of take you out of the moment a little bit. It's not the most sort of kid-friendly place. It looks quite posh and quite adult themed. And there's a really nice bar that as a parent with a couple of kids you can't really go to, at the top of the tower, and you get this lovely view of this amazing tower all the time that you can't really utilize, which is problematic. But from what we've the research we've done on Riverside, it looks amazing. It looks really good. It looks like a really good family option. There's a water commute, a boat commute as well, which is going to be good. We've not had that before. We've just been stuck with buses. So it'd be good to get to Springs via a boat, which will be a novelty. It is close to Springs as well, and we love going shopping, so that's going to be a winner. And yeah, we try to go every other year, so it's always entering a Disney year for us is always a good time. It's just something to sort of keep us going through some of the fun and games the rest of the year. But Ryan, I thought you were dead set on yours. I thought you'd book things. Is that not the case?
I haven't booked it yet. I've been holding out on booking, but I'm pretty certain about what I'm doing. I think we're going to go to Cabana Bay again. Although I'm very tempted by Sapphire Falls, but they've not got a lazy river at Cabana Bay. And also, despite not actually having kids, I quite like the family atmosphere at Cabana Bay. I almost feel like I don't want to be in an adult hotel. It's because I don't know, but so I'm kind of thinking I'd prefer to be in the family hotel with the lazy river. Definitely going to book a pool view or volcano view, but probably just a pool view room this time. I actually upgraded on the day when we got there last time, because I got there and I was like, oh, should we have a pool view room, and they managed to find us one. But I think we're going to go a little bit earlier this time, so we're going to go probably at the start of September. I'm going to try and go for the uber quiet crowd season, which is if you could basically go basically any time from the end of August, really. It's super quiet for about 3 weeks. So we're going to try and do that. I think when you're going, it's a pretty good time to go. It will get a little bit busy around Halloween, won't it? But whereas Brett went a little bit around Thanksgiving, which isn't great in terms of crowds, I think you'll miss that Thanksgiving crowd. So you'll get a bit of the best of both worlds, really, because you'll get that Halloween. You might get that little bump around Halloween, but you'll get all the buzz, and then it'll just die off completely before Thanksgiving. So that's what we're going to stay at Universal. I did think about staying at Disney, but I think maybe we'll do it sometime in the future. We'll get a free dining deal or something like that. But for us, I think Universal just works out better overall, despite wanting to stay in a family hotel and not having a family, which is maybe weird, but there you go.
We obviously spent a lot more time this cycle sort of looking at all the hotel options, because last time we weren't really sold on the hotel, the accommodation, the sort of the price bracket that we ended up in. So we gave the Universal side a really good look at, and I think the general consensus is the rooms always looked a bit better. I think the hotels looked nicer in many ways. It looked a bit newer, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more as you'd sort of expect for the amount of money you're paying. The thing which kind of swung it the other way, though, is just unless you go all out on the accommodation, unless you book one of the premium options, you don't get the you get passes to ride. I can't remember what they're called on the Universal side. The skip queues,
the express passes.
Yeah, that's the one.
It depends when you go, though. Like, if you go when it's quiet, you don't need them. Because at Universal, I don't know why, but the queues just don't seem to be as crazy as they can get at Disney if you go at a good time. If you're going to go at a very busy time, it's definitely really good value to get those express passes. But otherwise, I don't really see the point, to be honest. I don't think you really need them at Universal. So
I think the other thing, though, is that with Disney, they brought back the Disney dining packages. So although they're not as good as they used to be, they don't contain. I think it was the sit-down meals aren't included this time, which they were before. Which is before they were removed and reinstated, they were there. But there is free meals included. and actually that does make quite a big difference to a family. So although, like, on the one hand, you didn't really get much in addition, like, as thrown in as an extra on the Universal side, and on the other with Disney, potentially if you get a package, you do get that. But it was a much tighter call this time around, and all I'm waiting for is basically Universal to have some kind of package deal that includes some kind of food, and I'm sold, because the rooms look better, in my opinion.
I think what will happen is you'll get to a point where you'll find the kids want to spend more time at Universal potentially, and you'll find yourself spending so much more time at Universal that you'll think, actually, it's probably worth the convenience of being at Universal. But I don't know. It swings and roundabouts, really. I would like to stay at a Disney resort, but it never quite makes sense for us. But
so let me ask you. Let me ask you both this then. So you're both heading to Florida next year. Very, very, very excited for you both. I can't wait to hear all the reviews and the thoughts and feelings. So, are you both in your visits going to be going to Epic Universe? And if you are, what are you most looking forward to experiencing out of all the offerings in Epic?
I think with Epic Universe, what I'm really looking forward to most is someone from Universal getting in touch with us and offering us some kind of extension so that we get more than one day, and that would really be the icing on the cake.
Yeah, if you're listening, Mr. Universal, then we're definitely up for getting more than one day ticket to Epic Universe. So, in fact, we will talk non-stop about Universal in every podcast if you send us tickets for an extra day. How does that sound?
We're not saying that we'll be biased or easily bribed, but if we can get more tickets, then that's exactly what will happen. But no, I think basically just the idea of a big, epic scaled large park in Florida is just such a massive selling point. Like, I feel like it's a really good time to go back there, because, like, obviously there'll be a huge buzz about a new park opening up, and I kind of want to get there before the buzz dies away, but not immediately after the park is available, because it's going to get swamped. And I'm really looking forward to the new Harry Potter area. The Ministry looks incredible. Just this kind of what I've seen of that like the concept art of that looks amazing, and I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. I've nearly finished reading through the books again with my eldest son. And How to Train Your Dragon, I love those series of films. So again, I'm really looking forward to seeing what they've done there, and I think that really lends itself to a theme park family environment. So they're kind of my two big things I'm really looking forward to seeing. And I think now, like, it's like when you watch a film, like, the film never changes, but you do, and you experience it in different ways. Going to theme parks with kids, you have that, because every time they go growing up, they get something new from the same experiences they didn't get before. And so this time, my son is going to get loads more from Universal. He's going to get loads more from the Disney parks. And my daughter, who was too young to really, like, see more than just bright colors and interesting rides, like, she'll now understand, like, what the rides are about, and she'll begin to sort of get that true experience. So I'm just really looking forward to going back, seeing something new from my perspective, but also seeing how the kids react now that they're a little bit more mature.
See, I'm slightly worried that I just won't be able to get around it all in one day, so I'm going to have to prioritize. So I think the Dark Universe, I'm definitely probably going to go straight for that. So the indoor dark ride, but also the Wolfman coaster as well. I think that's top of my list. I think the Ministry of Magic ride for sure, because that's going to have a unique ride system. If I have to, I'll skip the Trainer Dragon area. I know it's got a family coaster, but I can probably skip that. The other thing would be now they've changed the name, haven't they? It was Starfall or Stardust Races, the racing coaster. I can't remember, they had to change the name for some reason, for some sort of copyright issue. But that would be another thing that I'd be looking to get on as well. So, in terms of the Nintendo area, now I definitely want to ride the Donkey Kong coaster. If I had to sacrifice one, I'll sacrifice the Mario Kart ride for the Donkey Kong coaster for sure. I would like to try the restaurant there, but I've got a feeling that I'm going to have zero chance of getting in it if Japan is anything to go with, because you just cannot get in there. Um, so yeah, so there's a lot that I'm looking forward to, but at the same time, I'm kind of thinking I don't want to get my hopes up and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. When in reality, I'm only going to have like 8 hours, 9 hours max to get around absolutely everything. So
It is
I'm
like
cautious.
like legitimately, like especially if you've got kids or a disability, like there's no feasible way of doing it. So I do think it's a little bit of a low blow. I'm assuming you can go all out and get some express pass tickets or something to help with some of the queues, but I imagine a lot of people will be doing the same, considering that everyone's in the same situation. So I can't even imagine that's a golden ticket to get through everything that needs to be done.
What I find really annoying is that if you were an American guest or a Canadian guest, and who doesn't go for 2 weeks, who might go for the week or even like 4 days or something, you can buy a 3 day ticket, and one of the days would be Epic Universe. But we've got to buy a 2 week ticket, and you still only get one day, which makes zero sense. Surely we should get one per week or something. If it was one per week, I'd think that's fine. But one in 14 days, that's surely not right. So that's what I've got a
I
bit of a problem with.
I agree with you, Philly. I think that makes total sense. I think because we're going for longer packages, even if they had to spread it out, where you had one per week and you couldn't go back to back, but you had it within your package for 2 days, that makes total sense because also the investment, if you think of like the investment of what you're actually paying for the Epic Universe ticket in conjunction to the other parks, a 3 day ticket is going to be a lot cheaper than a 2 week ticket, you know? So we're essentially saying paying more for the same thing. But I totally agree with you guys. I think both wonderful selections, both wonderful different reasons. I don't know if I'm going to be getting out to Epic Universe next year. I'd love to. My choices would be very, very similar to you, Ryan. I would be doing Darkmoor, like Dark Universe, Darkmoor first, absolutely. Then going on to do the Stardust races, followed by Ministry of Magic. One thing that I thought was interesting about the Donkey Kong, if you guys have followed the release and the launch of the Donkey Kong area in Japan that happened this week just gone, it's interesting because for the longest time people were complaining that when the POV was leaked, like a while back, they were saying that it wasn't very fast and it didn't look very good. And from the side, it does look confusing. However, I didn't realize this, perhaps naively, that the ride is actually built for the perspective of the rider on the actual cart. Because if you watch it from the side, it looks strange, right? Doesn't look very fast or very fun.
It's on like a single rail. It's almost like not Grand National Steeplechase that
Yes.
It's like that basically, but it's like a cart which is above that, and then it's got like a kind of trick track in between it. So the idea is that it looks like you're kind of hopping across track and stuff. So yeah, if you're looking at off ride, it probably does look a bit weird, but I imagine on ride it's probably far more interesting. So I would take any of that with a pinch of salt, I think, personally.
And it does. I mean, I watched the POV from what was released because I didn't know if I'm going to get there or not. But it really does look, when you're watching it from a rider's point of view, it looks like you're literally jumping over track and you're moving from track to track all over the place. Like the illusion is fantastic from a rider's point of view. So if you're a person that's watched the POVs or seen the footage where it's jumping from the side and you think, oh, it looks a bit slow, or, it doesn't look very impressive, either watch the POV if you're not going to ride it anytime soon, or if you want to stay spoiler free, just wait until you're in that rider's perspective, because that is, I'd imagine, how the rider's been designed, and it looks awesome and looks really good.
Super. Well, we'll talk more about that in the new year as I think what we are going to say is we're on the road to Epic Universe. Maybe that's what we say. Hopefully by the time we get to the end of that road that we might be allowed to go more than once, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so before we wrap up though, Sam, you want to talk a little bit about Wicked, which I haven't seen yet, but I've heard a lot about. What do we need to know, Sam?
Okay, so I specifically requested to do a piece on Wicked for this episode because it has just exploded everywhere. And contrary to popular belief, it is very, very topical for the theme park community right now. So, quick backstory. If you haven't seen Wicked, whether you've seen the Broadway or the West End production, it's a prequel to the Wizard of Oz story about how the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda the Good Witch, how they were friends and they met, and they're basically their origin stories, essentially, is the easiest way to think of it. So that's the movie. Now, the Broadway show was fantastic and has been running for something like 20 years almost now. And then obviously the movie just got released very recently at the end of November. Now, the movie was fantastic because they shot it all in the UK and they built these visceral sets, like actual physical worlds. There's Shiz University, where they literally built the entire university world with a lake. They built a lake in the set that boats actually moved across. Then they built Munchkin Land. Then they built the Emerald City. But we're talking huge, enormous sets. Now, this has obviously exploded. I mean, in terms of the global box office, when I last checked, it was at 250 million worldwide, which is unbelievable when you consider the budget of the movie was big enough. But I'm not sure what the global status is of the overall budget right now, but it is just blown up. Why this is so topical right now is because of its popularity and its archaicness within musical theatre, but also as a story as a whole. We've been seeing it more and more in theme parks, universal theme parks around the world. Now, what started as a shop, for example, in Orlando, they had the Wicked Experience, which was a huge shop, which had some of recreations of the sets, recreations of some of the dresses, and then its exclusive merchandise. We also saw them then start to do meet and greets with Alphabet and Glinda, the Good and Bad Witch from the movie, which was really interesting. But what absolutely blew my mind, there were rumors flying around that this could be expanded into a theme park land, right? Now, that's hard to believe when they're just building stores and doing promo for it. But what blew my mind and what made me think this is probably a possibility that we could see in the future was if you look at the Universal Studios Singapore pop-up, okay? Google this right now, YouTube it right now. There's a great video online. This isn't just a simple activation. They turned the entirety of the main street, quote unquote, area of Universal Studios Singapore, the boulevard, the main boulevard, into Oz, right? They had little carts and they had little kind of locals of the Emerald City, citizens of the Emerald City that you could meet and greet. However, they built this enormous meet and greet stage where they had this theatrical entrance and exit for Glinda and Elphaba where you could meet them. And they even had an incredibly detailed Wizard of Oz puppet. Like the Wizard of Oz puppet from the movie physically came out of these enormous doors and was interacting live with guests, like in the big booming voice, like in the Wizard of Oz. But then the puppet was physically being live controlled as well. And when I say huge, this thing is like, I don't even know. It's enormous. It towers above people and is booming. Now, you cannot tell me that this has all just been done for a simple pop-up, for a movie release, you know? There was so much investment into this quote-unquote pop-up. And the rumor is that this could very well be potentially a land at Universal Studios Great Britain when it opens. Now, I know that might seem strange to people, but it makes perfect sense when you think of the archaicness of this being a West End show. It's been in the West End and very popular for 20 years, crossed multi-generations. Now we're having a massively grossing film with another one, with possible future spin-offs coming from this universe. But if you watch the film, you will just see how rich and detailed this universe is. It's kind of like, and this is going to upset people, but it's like a new spin almost on Harry Potter. It's set on this, in this wizarding, witches and wizards world, but it is so rich in detail. And the sets were absolutely phenomenal. Now, the rumor is potentially that we could see it being, you start at Shiz University, and then you take the train, like in the film, which they physically built in a similar fashion to the Express that we have in Orlando, over to the Emerald City, and you exit and you enter the Emerald City, and then maybe there's a dark ride there. In terms of, we can speculate all day about what kind of rides we could see in this world. But the fact is that these sets were rich, they're detailed, they have not been destroyed, as far as I'm aware. They're still out there. And there was another rumor that I saw online, again, complete speculation, but we love it, that Universal was building these sets, not only for the movie, but also testing them to see how they would fit in real worlds. Like they had Universal Destination Parks and Resorts executives on the set, looking at how it would actually work in a real physical form. So if you haven't seen the pop-up at Universal Studios Singapore, please YouTube it, because it is incredible. And I definitely think that, okay, if it doesn't come as a huge world to Universal Great Britain, which I think it would be a shame if it didn't, it will be incorporated in the theme parks in a more permanent basis. Because when you look at the money they spent on that pop-up, that is some serious mechanics and effort they put in there. So I think if you're a Wicked fan, this is a really exciting time to see how Universal are going to utilize this IP, what has already been a gross, huge box office smash hit, and is one of already, if it's now not already the number one, it's within the top 3 highest grossing musical movies of all time. So really want to watch there. And I think personally, I would love to see it in Universal Studios Great Britain, especially when you think of the fact that they mentioned in all of their press releases that Universal Studios Great Britain is going to be fully unique. There is nothing in that park that can be found in the Orlando parks, not internationally, right? So we could still see a Jurassic World adventure from Beijing come over. But in terms of, there's going to be no copycats from the Orlando parks at all, right? Because they capitalize the business.
So that's really interesting, because we talked about it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have a Wizarding World because it's kind of been done now everywhere. We then talked about, could that mean Lord of the Rings? But I'm not sure that Lord of the Rings has kind of got the hype at the moment that maybe they were hoping. And maybe now they've pivoted to Oz and Wicked, and that would be good. I mean, that, like you say, that is, it has the same kind of magic, the same kind of whimsy, same kind of fantasy that Harry Potter does, but also completely different as its own story. So yeah, I buy into that. I think that'd be amazing.
Just from my side, if it's already, if they've already constructed these sets and these, amazing pieces of equipment that would be required for theme parks, and it's still a fresh film in the cinemas, it's still basically a new release. So given that, it would have had to have been made alongside the film, alongside the actual sets, alongside all of the things that they were doing to get that prepared to hit the cinemas. So that would indicate right off the bat they've got a wider plan. So with all that said, I'm completely ignorant because I've never seen the play. I've not seen the film yet. I've heard good things, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. But yeah, I think as you both mentioned, I think it would make a good family theme park experience. And yeah, I think it would be a great thing to see in the UK park. That's probably something pretty high up there on a wish list. What I would also say is, if they are doing that and they're bringing in live sets, I hope they avoid the original. Was it 1939, the original film? When they made that, the snow that they used in production was pure asbestos. So I hope they don't bring back that particular feature.
Yeah, let's have less asbestos.
But
Yeah.
again, to your point, Dan, it's interesting though, right? Because even if you take Wicked away from the world of Wicked, right? Like, forget that it's had 20 years of success in the theatre. Forget that it's this multi-million pound success and grossing musical film. It's still set within the world of Wizard of Oz, right? Which is then relatable for a much older audience as well. Like, everyone knows the story of Wizard of Oz. So away from the Wicked sense, with just purely looking at as set in the world of Wizard of Oz, you're then opening yourself up to an enormous demographic of generations and generations and generations. Everyone knows the story of Wizard of Oz.
I'm just looking up when the original film was released, because I think I've got the dates wrong. I think it's even earlier than I'm remembering, because it was like the first colour film, wasn't it? It starts off black and white and then transitions into colour, and it was that like transition. Which
I thought it was 39. Could be wrong though.
I don't know. It's sometime in the 30s, but like incredible film to have been released with the effects and the full colour. It did back then.
Well, it wasn't proper colour, was it? Did they colour it in? Or was it actual colour? Was it?
I don't know.
They call it Technicolor, didn't they? They called it Technicolor, the first type of colour.
Was 1939. I just IMDb'd it.
Yes, I know Oz.
Yeah.
But have you ever watched Return to Oz, which is a total nightmare? It has like a creepy scarecrow in it for some reason. And
you always find like the B-list film, and you always really enjoy them instead of the classic.
Well, he's like a pumpkin man. Apparently, though, interestingly, the pumpkin guy, who's a scarecrow but is a pumpkin man, he was actually the inspiration for Jack Skellington, apparently.
Oh,
so
that makes
something
sense, yeah.
something good came out of it. But also, it has. Have you never watched this, Sam? Return to Oz? Because they have like a sled, like a Santa sled that they all go on towards the end. It's actually got like a reindeer kind of bolted onto the front of it, and the reindeer's like going down like this. It's like, and also has like this kind of, well, not only does it have the wheelers in, which I'm pretty sure the wheelers would give you total nightmares, Sam, but also they have this kind of rock king as well, who is literally a rock, but he's like this kind of super evil piece of rock for some reason. So
I've never seen it. I'm actually just have to get it on at some point.
This sounds like the Jaws 3 of, like, Jaws is an amazing film. Jaws 3 is terrible. This sounds like the same.
It's
same
on Disney.
job.
It's on Disney Plus. Dorothy's in it, but she's older now, and she's kind of got like amnesia. She's like, "Oh, I've come back to this place. I'm not really sure what's going on." But Oz has been taken over by the Wheelers, so Oz is like something. It's all gone wrong since Dorothy left, and the Wheelers. And there is actually a video somewhere of someone who went to Disney dressed as a Wheeler somewhere, and it's like a really good costume. I'm kind of surprised that Disney let them do it, to be honest. But yeah, so the Wheelers. So Google the Wheelers and then have nightmares. So there you go. Okay.
That's what they should base the UK theme park Oz experience on. The slightly broken sequel.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think now. So potentially Universal UK, we could have this fantastical Wizard of Oz area. Also potentially an area with Cornetto trilogy situations going on, maybe. Go to the Winchester to wait for everything to blow over. But yeah, so it's kind of coming together now, I think, potentially Universal UK. I'm looking forward to it hopefully being announced in 2025, all being well, touch wood. But anyway, all right, well, we hope you've enjoyed our Christmas special and that you have maybe taken on board some of our terrible food advice from earlier on in the show. And hopefully you stuck around all that talk and listened to the theme park chat and you found that particularly interesting. I think we've left the best till last. I think Sam's kind of dropped a bit of a revelation there, something for everyone to think about going into the new year. But before we wrap up, Dan, have you got an end of year address that you'd like to give before we have a show in the new year?
No. What do you mean?
I don't know. You might want to share. So it's your last opportunity in 2024 to say something to the theme park Loopy fam, the Loopy fam.
All I would say is I reckon we can do more in 2025. So I'm looking forward to going big or going home, basically. So let's put an end to the stupid 2024. Let's move on. Let's do even better. That's my input.
That's your motto. And what about you, Sam? What's your final address of 2024?
My final address for all of the theme park Loopy fans out there would be thank you so much for listening and so much for your support. We could not do this without anyone listening. So thank you very much. And watch this space because, as Dan said, things are going to get very exciting. I believe things are going to get very exciting for Theme Park Loopy and for all of us next year. And thank you for your support. And like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, well, if you're on Spotify, you can leave comments now for some reason. So if you want to do that, that's fine. But yeah, no, thanks for listening. We've enjoyed you listening in 2024. We've had a good year. We've had lots more followers on all the different platforms that we're on, particularly Spotify and Apple. Not really done a lot on YouTube, but I think we should probably try and do some more on YouTube, I guess. It's probably a good idea. But we like to concentrate on the audio. So thanks for joining us in 2024. It's been really good. We've enjoyed you being with us. Hopefully, lots of exciting things in 2025. We hopefully will have Brett back in 2025, although Brett may become an international superstar in the meantime. I'm sure he'll tell us all about it in his haunted world. Hopefully we can drag Charlie back from Barnsley Pleasure Beach at some point. He's having a good time a good time down there at Barnsley Pleasure Beach. So yeah, thanks for joining us, and insert some Christmas music here.